Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. And today we are going to talk about creating new ecosystems beyond Solidity and the EVM in the blockchain world. I have with me Gregoire from Only Dust, Sam from Not Guardian, Milan, from what? From
StarkNet Foundation.
oh my god, from the StarkNet Foundation.
Sorry.
Amazing. And Giwook from Door Labs. Cool. So the goal of this panel is to try to identify, obviously, I think, who here in the room knows what is the smart contract language of StarkNet? Yeah, okay, cool. So it's obviously not Solidity, right? So onboarding people to a new platform with a new smart contract language, with a bunch of new stuff, is a challenge. The first thing I wanted to kickstart the discussion with is, according to you, what are Ethereum and the EVM's developer modes? Meaning, we often think about, oh, Solidity. Solidity is the obvious one, but there are a bunch of others. And I was curious if some of these came to mind. Giwook, you seem to agree.
Oh yeah, I think one of the biggest one is dev pools. So if you have some problems or if you have some trouble with your project, or if you have some bugs and you don't know how to solve it, like you can easily find some experts to get help. But like in this like StarkNet ecosystem, like it's hard to find one. So if you have a problem, then you have to check. I mean, you will Google it, right? And then you will notice that, oh, there is no data on Google, and you need to find from Discord or from Telegram, right? So I think that's one of the biggest mods on Ethereum. Yeah.
Interesting. So the first thing you mentioned is relatively intangible. So it's the pool of developers and it's indexed content on Google and SEO. That brings me to like one other aspect when you mentioned the community, and which is how do you create link in between builders and like the concept of mentoring. Milan, you did a little bit of that, right, on StarkNet with developers. I'm curious, what was your experience mentoring people and teaching them about these new platform with which you were maybe not that familiar?
It was always very positive, I have to say. Even like from my side, I learned a lot just talking to people and figuring out like their problems together. Yeah.
So you mean it wasn't comfortable because you felt like you learned as much as the person you taught to?
A little bit of that as well, yeah. I think like StarkNet attracts very smart people. So at the beginning, like maybe our level, just because I'm longer on StarkNet, like our level is different, but they catch up very fast, and then I don't actually have much to teach them anymore, I think, and just because they are smart, they're so smart, everyone's smart.
But isn't it the best kind of teaching when you also learn something?
Absolutely, that's why I love it, that's why I do it. I try to help people as much as I can.
So embrace the unknown and make new friends. Nice.
Yeah.
Sam, any other developer modes of the EVM you think of?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there is like the situation where you need to troubleshoot why something is not working. It's very well documented, or it's very likely that someone already ran through your problem. And you have, of course, templates, tooling, and a lot of things that are already existing, which gives a better developer experience. And Cairo has always been, as I like to say, some kind of filter for the StarkNet ecosystem, because it's definitely not the easy path to take. But it seems that people are choosing Cairo because there are some specific components, characteristics of StarkNet that they want to leverage, be it account abstraction or something else. And so that's my take. Of course, that leads to a better overall. Let's say the developers are a bit more, let's say, committed when they're building on StarkNet, and sometimes maybe a bit more tech savvy than usual. But that's also something that slows down the growth of the ecosystem. Also, because Cairo VM is very specific to StarkNet and Cairo the language, when you're building assets on Cairo, with Cairo it's only for StarkNet. well, when you're doing something in Solidity, you can already think about redeploying this to other EVM systems, or like Alt-L1 EVM chains or EVM compatible rollups. So it's a lot of trade-offs and a lot of things to take into account from a business standpoint. Should you choose to go with Cairo, you also have to take this in consideration. But yeah, it is a great thing, and it comes with some drawbacks.
So why do you think people build on emerging ecosystem? What are the advantages for people to build on emerging ecosystems?
So, well, I think that you can capture all these ecosystems that are growing are meant to become big, and coming early, of course, means onboarding like the first wave of users that might end up being the most involved in that ecosystem. Of course, that's something that's not always true, but I think that coming in early is definitely something relevant, and you also go with the idea that StarkNet is going to capture a lot of value, and because of the design choices done by StarkNet and the choice of Cairo, you also go with the assumption that this thing eventually at some point is going to find a bigger, bigger adoption, mass adoption. That's why you're initially going there, and being there early and sharpening your skills where there aren't that many people that are currently building, being one of the first will definitely give you an edge on the long term. You will know the best practices. You will master and ship code that is safer, more robust, and that's a very important edge, because when you come in an ecosystem that's already mature and highly competitive, it's not easy to catch up, and it's not easy to build trust. Well, if you're well established and involved at an early stage, not only through building, but in the governance, and you actually shape how the platform is going to be to fit your needs better as a developer, but also to respect your, to make it fit for your users, then that's a big deal. And you don't have this opportunity on mature stacks that are very, that do not change much. So it's a great opportunity to come early so that you can have an impact on making the thing suit you best.
So it's investing in your reputation and investing in yourself, essentially.
To some extent, yes.
I don't agree.
Please expand.
Yes. I think it's just a bad idea to come very early in an ecosystem, but just very funny, You like the frontier, but I think, for example, the Lancelot is here since 1 year. I think it's from Rick, the legend, just here. I think it was very hard for him. It's his 1 year, its life is just a nightmare, But right now, for example, a guy like Elias from Kakarot is with us since 3 months, and I think he can not compete with Lancelot, but it's not very far from him. And he didn't waste a year. So I think if you love adventure, if you love the frontier, if you love the tech, it's very cool to come early. But I think you don't have an edge on people who are coming 1 year or 2 years after you. It's not the same if you are coming like 5 years after. So I think just because you like adventure, I think it's the only advantage. Be very early, just a pain, I think.
So you have cool stories, but not necessarily a tech advantage or a business advantage.
Yes, completely. And I think you can be very well onboarded in an ecosystem 1 year after. So sorry, but it's not very. I don't know. Yes, I have to say that. Yes.
I beg to differ slightly, but still, when we're looking for the most, let's say, for the sharpest Cairo engineers, we usually go towards Nethermind or maybe actors like Veridize that have some kind of track record. Even though it doesn't mean that intrinsically they're the best Cairo engineers, developers, you still want to go with them because they've constituted the track record. So to some extent, there's still an edge, there's still an advantage when you're involved early, I think. But of course, as you said, Elias starts contributing on Kakarot 3 months ago and has a level that's similar to Lancelot. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if Lancelot agrees. But if I give you 1 year to play around with the language, and I give 1 month to another person, I still think that these 11 months of difference are going to make a big difference. I still think it's an important difference.
Okay.
Milan, Giwook, anyone want to contribute here?
As I want to say, I think it also makes a business sense to come early and build early. because like you then are the recognized brand on the rocket ship that's about to launch, right? So it does make sense to be early.
Interesting, thank you. So it is true though that a lot of builders or companies that came early ended up saying, okay, so I'm gonna use this component that I'm used to using in Ethereum and build my thing, and oh wait, it doesn't exist yet. And then you have to build it, right? So a lot of the tooling you have to rebuild, you have to respec it, you have to go around building the things in order to build your product. And as easy as it sounds, because you may think, oh, well, we know what we need to build, it's not always that simple, right? I was wondering, Gregoire, if you have some insight in that, because at OnlyDust you've helped a lot of projects bootstrap community infrastructure projects.
Yes, in fact, it's very hard for a new business. For example, we are talking with the guys of Sysmo, very smart guys, and we're like, we can't come in because we need this. It's Garaga, it's a project from Bruno, and so yes, it's very cool because people of the ecosystem have to. So if you want to come in Starknet, sometimes you have some issues and you need to develop something. And if you are alone as a company, it's very hard to do this because you have to engage your own funds. And I think it's the role of the Starknet Foundation to say, okay, you are a business, you want to come with us, it's very cool. You need this, this, and this. I will help you with the community. And a lot of builders who are here and are available, are here for the tech, for the adventure, are like, okay, I want to create this from scratch. It will be very hard, but it's exciting for me. It is why I will do this. As a business, excitement, adventure, tech, it's not a good idea, I think. If you want to create a successful business, it's not the way to do this. It's cool, but it's not the way to do this. So I think it's very cool to use the real spirit of the frontier of the Starknet ecosystem, people who came early to help business more rational to come in. And I think it's a perfect fit, you know.
Thank you. So we talked so far a lot about builders, about devs. I'm curious, where and when do you see the need when you want to onboard people to a new ecosystem to create content specific to people who are non-devs? Or let's say more broadly, how do you select the people you want to reach and onboard to the ecosystem? And I was thinking, Giwook, if you had some insight on this, because at Door Labs you have run various educational programs. So who are the people showing up to hear about new ecosystems? Are they very proficient in programming or with blockchain? Not that much. How do you address them, and who do you see stick around after teaching stuff to them?
Yeah, okay, so we ran the first Cairo Bootcamp Korea in last October, and we found the devs because like Web3 devs, because we thought blockchain is quite hard to enter at first time, and especially we want to teach Cairo, right? So it's not L1, it's L2. So you need to understand about what Ethereum is, and then you can learn about Cairo. So we thought, okay, we need to teach the Web3 devs who doesn't know what Cairo is. That's why we contact ZK Cell. It's one of the biggest ZK community in South Korea. So many ZK Cells members were coming in and learn about Cairo, and yeah, that's where we found some devs. Yeah.
Thank you. And to expand a bit maybe on this with Milan, so Greg, Sam, you are both based from France, and France has a big community. Milan, you're not. You're from Eastern Europe. There's less Starknet people there. Giwook, you're based in Korea, and there's less people there. How do you see the barrier of English, of language, to the adoption of Starknet, and how can the community help you grow the communities locally where you are?
That's a good question. I don't have a good answer for. I think, like from the foundation point of view, we want to support people all around the world. So like in South Korea, well, you don't need any more support in Paris, I would say, but everywhere else to actually do meetups, bring builders to the ecosystem, help them out with grants, and kind of do whatever we can. So also the community is distributed all around the world. So I've been like going around talking to people, trying to find like who can be the like these how to find these ambassadors that will actually bring the new builders to StarkNet. I don't know if that answers your question sufficiently.
Oh, it does. And what about you, Giwook? What do you think about having content specific to your regional language versus having content in English, but managing the trade-off between having localized content and accurate and up-to-date content?
Okay. Actually, to be truth, if you want to be a Web3 devs in South Korea, you need to learn English first because there is none of Korean docs in South Korea. Of course, there is some, but like if you learn about Web3, then you need to learn English. So actually, in South Korea, when you make some Web2 guys when you want to make Web2 guys to Web3 guy, you don't care which language he use. I mean, we just give English documentations, and of course we can teach using Korean, but yeah, most of the docs and repos are English. So yeah, I think everyone uses English in South Korea. So.
Oh, that's a very, very valid answer. Thank you. So you mentioned earlier the difference between Web 2 devs and Web 3 devs. Sam, you're doing a lot to onboard Web 2 devs to the Web 3 world in general. I'm curious, what's your take on how do you onboard people to new ecosystems who are not EVM? Do you take them through the EVM first or not? And there are advantages and disadvantages in both cases, right? If you onboard Web3 devs, they know a bunch of stuff already, but there's much less of them. Whereas there are a lot of Web2 devs, but you have to teach them a lot more. So I'm curious, do you think we need to go for the EVM or to other stuff?
Okay, so the way we would do it at Node Guardians is, so Node Guardians for now is a platform that provides challenges for Solidity only, and we're planning to add Cairo 1.0, and we're only focusing on that segment, which is seasoned developers, as there are already a lot of solutions to get familiar with Solidity that are out there, so we can try to focus on content that actually caters and challenges developers that are a bit familiar with the Solidity stack. We try to define all the components to give you some kind of roll-up about what the stack is about, how to build with it, what are the design patterns, the standards when it comes to building. And if we plan to add a new domain-specific language, or something like Cairo, for instance, we will try to focus on the aspects that really stand out on this platform. So whether it is, I don't know, L1, L2 messaging, account abstraction, whatsoever, we will try to insist on these new concepts. I don't know if that answers the question, but we really try to give the context. We start with a proof of concept that covers Solidity in an exhaustive fashion. And now that we're starting to fork out towards other stacks, we try really to insist on what makes these languages different and how to build with them. Then, you also mentioned about finding the right audience, getting the word out. It's good to abstract the complexity, explain what the stack is about, and share educational content that cater to actually everyone. This we historically did through a media I co-run called Journal du Coin. So we basically publish articles that explain how that stack works. And then when it comes to getting more involved in building, we have that brute force approach where we will have some resources or some events that cater to developer that we will organize in the cities where they're like Paris, for instance, or Lisbon, and try to see how they react with the stack, how we can build better challenges that make most sense for them. So this is the approach we would take to train them.
Thank you. Gregoire, I'll extend the question to you. You have a Web 2 background. Well, I guess like everyone, but you relatively recently moved to Web 3. Not talking about devs, but talking about builders, company builders, and entrepreneurs, what does Web3 has to offer to Web2 builders, and how do we communicate that to them? What kind of resources do they need to understand what Web3 is about?
It's a good question. I don't agree.
What do you mean? You don't agree with the fact? Well, expand. What do you mean? Do you think Web3 doesn't have much
No,
to...
no, it's a joke. When you don't know what to say, you just I don't agree. It's a tips for the audience. If you need.
So what would you wish you had
Yes, I think
received
yes.
earlier
I
when
think
you onboarded Web3?
the problem with entrepreneurs, it's not like developer. If you check the graph of developers, you see that the tech attract them since 10 years, and if you check the graph of entrepreneur, it's the grid. They see opportunities, business opportunities. They're like, okay, if I want to raise money at a big valuation, it's not the case right now, but I have to go to Web3. So it's a new tech. I will check it. So I think it's a fundamental difference between tech. They are searching for, I think, sorry for adventure, but I think when you are Web3 in StarkNet, since one year you are just on, yes, you are looking for an adventure. When you are a businessman, you are looking for an opportunity. And I think it's not the same. And to attract them, we need to say, okay, this StarkNet, for example, or Web3 more generally, it's the future. You have to build on this. You have to create some hype, you know. And I think it's a problem, for example, about DAOs. I think it was very funny because last year when I was onboarded in Web3, there was like 200 DAO tools and like 50 active DAO, very active DAO. You know, there is nonsense, but there was this big opportunity for all people. Like, okay, if I am doing DAOs tooling, I will raise a lot of money. So it's a big problem. So I have to go there. So I think we need to create this hype, highlight opportunity, create hype, and yes, it's not the same motivation than developer, but I think it works.
Thank you. And one last question that goes out to all of you, I guess. How do we measure success when we create new ecosystem and we're trying to do something differently? If you forecast yourself in 1 year, what thing would make you say, yes, we did some things well?
Monthly active developers.
Okay, monthly active developers.
Overall, the value that's on the network and active addresses, but yeah, I would say that, yeah.
Milan, Giwook?
If my wife knows what StarkNet is.
Ah, nice. Can I?
Many projects and many Twitter followers and many people in Discord and like that, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I'll say one last. Active meetup communities, people meeting regularly in their local place to share the excitement and go on an adventure together, whether it's a business or not. You can help with that, reach out. All right, I think we're at the end of this panel. Thank you again for bearing with my questions today. And yeah, please clap for our guest.